Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome, and please subscribe right now because today's video is one of those stories that makes you stop and think about how much has changed in the world of men's fashion and global style over the past decade. Because what GQ did recently was not something you would have predicted even 5 years ago. GQ, one of the oldest, most respected, most widely read men's fashion and lifestyle magazines in the world, published a feature titled "The Best Men's Hairstyles for Long Hair in 2026, according to experts." And among the faces chosen to illustrate those best hairstyles, alongside some of the most recognizable names in Hollywood and global entertainment, was one face that represents something genuinely historic for K-pop and for Korean culture in Western fashion media. ParkJimin of BTS. The only K-pop idol on the list. The only Asian person featured. One of approximately 6 men whose appearance GQ chose to use as the visual reference point for what the best long hair looks like for men in 2026. So let's talk about all of it, what GQ said, what it means, why it matters, and why the story of Jimin's hair in 2026 is genuinely one of the most significant fashion stories of the year. Let's start with GQ itself, because context matters enormously here and the weight of this particular recognition depends on understanding what GQ actually represents in the landscape of men's fashion media. GQ, Gentleman's Quarterly, was founded in 1931, making it one of the oldest continuously published men's magazines in the world. For nearly a century, it has been the publication that defines what well-dressed, culturally engaged men look like. Its cover subjects across the decades have constituted a who's who of the most culturally significant male figures in the world: actors, athletes, musicians, politicians, filmmakers, artists. Its fashion coverage has consistently shaped what men aspire to wear and how they think about personal presentation. And its hair coverage, specifically, has functioned as a kind of cultural consensus about what excellent male grooming looks like in any given moment. When GQ publishes a feature called "The Best Men's Hairstyles for Long Hair in 2026, according to experts, it is not simply a listicle assembled for clicks. It is a document of what the fashion and grooming industry's most knowledgeable voices believe represents the standard for excellent long hair on men in this particular year. The experts cited in such features are typically professional hairstylists with decades of experience, creative directors of major grooming brands, and editorial stylists who shape the visual identity of major fashion publications. Their opinions carry weight not because of who they are individually, but because they collectively represent the accumulated professional judgment of an industry that has been thinking about men's hair at the highest level for generations. And those experts, in 2026, looked at the landscape of men with long hair and identified Jimin as one of the best examples of what long hair on men can look like when it is done right. He was placed alongside actors, other entertainers, and public figures whose long hair has received mainstream attention, people whose faces are recognized by general American audiences without any reference to K-pop or Asian entertainment. And in that company, Jimin's hair was considered by GQ's expert sources to be among the very best in the world. Let's think about who else appears in that kind of GQ feature. The other figures in the image shared on GQ's official Instagram account are men whose long hair has been discussed in mainstream Western fashion and entertainment media, actors known for roles in major Hollywood productions, public figures whose appearance has been covered extensively in American celebrity media. These are not obscure references. They are people whose hair is already part of mainstream Western cultural consciousness. And Jimin was placed among them, as an equal reference point, by the editors and experts at one of the most prestigious fashion publications in the world. This is genuinely historic. Not in the way that things are casually called historic, not as hyperbole or fan enthusiasm. In the specific, documentable sense that it represents a first, the first time a K-pop idol has appeared alongside mainstream Hollywood and Western entertainment figures in a GQ hair feature as a co-equal reference for excellent male grooming. Not as a curiosity, not as a novelty, not as a look at this interesting K-pop trends sidebar. As a straightforward inclusion in the main content, presented without qualification or explanation, as though it is simply obvious that this person belongs here. Because in 2026, it is obvious. And the fact that it is obvious is itself the result of a years-long process of cultural negotiation and boundary crossing that Jimin's hair evolution has been at the center of throughout the entire Arirang World Tour era. To understand the full significance of the GQ feature, you need to understand the specific story of Jimin's long hair in 2026 and what it represents, not just as a styling choice but as a statement about artistic identity and the right to make choices about your own presentation regardless of institutional resistance. A senior executive from Big Hit Music revealed in an interview that keeping the long hair was Jimin's call. During a live broadcast, Jimin shared that when he chose to grow out his hair, he faced resistance from everyone, including his agency. Only his mother stood by him. He grew it anyway. He styled it differently at every stop of a world tour that spans 34 cities across 23 countries. He let it be braided, worn loose, worn with accessories, worn with bandanas, worn in half-up styles, worn in ways that generated a new nickname in every city. And the cumulative result of all of those choices, all of that resistance overcome, all of that creative commitment maintained, is a visual evolution that has become one of the most talked about and most widely covered hairstyle stories in global fashion media in 2026. The journey of Jimin's hair during this era is documented across every major fashion and entertainment publication that has covered the Ararang World Tour. GQ itself had already noted the hair before this specific feature, observing Jimin's flowing blonde locks at the Dior Men's Show in Paris, where the combination of the hair with his Dior ambassador styling created one of the most photographed looks of the Fashion Week season. Billboard selected Jimin's hair as one of the best moments of the London concerts, describing it as so powerful and commanding that it deserved its own separate acknowledgement beyond the performance itself. Dazed, the British fashion and culture publication, chose a Jimin fancam as the only video from the London concert to post on their official TikTok. Star News Korea covered multiple pieces analyzing the international media's fascination with Jimin's hair specifically, noting that the combination of its texture, its color, its movement during performance, and the way it interacts with different styling approaches has created something that hair professionals at the international level find genuinely noteworthy. The expert quoted in GQ's long hair feature, celebrity hairstylist Sam Knight, provided the theoretical framework for why long hair on men has become such a significant trend in 2026, and his words apply with particular precision to what Jimin has been doing with his hair throughout this tour. Long hair has become another way for men to express their individuality rather than maintaining a standard appearance. Moreover, if you have good hairlines, it is absolutely worth showing them off. Both of those observations are directly applicable to Jimin. The decision to grow his hair long against institutional resistance was, as he described in his own words, an assertion of individuality, a choice to look the way he wanted to look rather than the way the people around him were comfortable with. And the result, as GQ's feature documents, is a hair situation that professionals in the industry describe as worth showing off. Not managing or working around. Showing off. As a positive example of exactly what long male hair can be when it is grown and styled with intention. Let's also talk about the specific qualities of Jimin's hair that hair professionals and fashion editors have identified as making it such a strong reference. Hair professional Tara Rose Bonsarilli, who analyzed Jimin's hair in the context of the Ararang World Tour, explained that the soft layers and natural movement of his long blonde hair function as an element that reinterprets historical appearances in a contemporary way, ensuring that the outfits do not look like costumes. That observation is worth unpacking, because it points to something specific about what Jimin's hair does on stage that goes beyond simple aesthetics. The hair is doing work. It is functioning as a kind of connective tissue between the historical and cultural elements of the Ararang album's visual vocabulary, the references to Korean heritage, the period costuming in certain segments of the show, and the contemporary performer who is inhabiting those visual elements in the present. Without the hair doing what it does, the staging might read differently. The hair is not just an accessory. It is part of the artistic statement. Pakar Rambut Terkenal Dunia Kirk Riley Memperkenalkan Gaya Rambut Jimin Sebagai Soft Punk, Menjelaskan Bahwa Capecon Modern di Mana Kelembutan dan Keberanian Berdampingan Menembakkan Suasana yang Fleksibel dan Alami pada Keseluruhan Penonton. World-renowned hair expert Kirk Riley introduced Jimin's hairstyle as soft punk, explaining that the modern sensibility where softness and boldness coexist adds a flexible and natural atmosphere to the overall styling. That specific label, soft punk, is significant because it identifies something in Jimin's hair that goes beyond technical execution and speaks to a specific cultural and aesthetic position. Punk, as a concept in fashion and music history, has always been about the refusal of convention, about asserting an identity that the mainstream would prefer you to suppress. And the soft qualifier in the soft punk label acknowledges that Jimin's version of this refusal is not aggressive or confrontational, it is gentle, flowing, beautiful, but equally committed to its own identity. This is exactly the same quality that made him grow the hair against his agency's preferences and keep it across an entire world tour. The hair is soft punk. And GQ has now officially acknowledged it as one of the best examples of what male hair can be in 2026. The broader cultural significance of Jimin's inclusion in GQ's long hair feature cannot be understood without also considering what it represents for K-pop's relationship with Western fashion media more generally. K-pop has had a complex and often fraught relationship with Western fashion institutions. The influence of K-pop idols on fashion and beauty trends has been acknowledged by the industry for years, the Korean beauty industry's growth, the global spread of specific makeup techniques and skincare approaches, the influence of idol fashion on streetwear and youth culture. But the translation of that influence into formal recognition from the highest prestige Western fashion publications has been slower and more complicated. Being acknowledged as a trend is different from being acknowledged as an authority. Being cited as a source of inspiration for youth fashion is different from being placed alongside Hollywood stars as a co-equal reference for what excellent male grooming looks like. The GQ long hair feature is an example of the second kind of recognition. Jimin is not being cited as a K-pop influence on global trends. He is being cited as one of the best examples of the thing itself, not because of who his audience is or which market he represents, but because his hair is genuinely excellent and expert hairstylists with decades of professional experience agree that it belongs on the list. This is a subtle but enormously important distinction, and it marks a genuine shift in how Western fashion media is engaging with K-pop figures. The timing of the GQ feature, published in July 2026, during the European leg of the Arirang World Tour, places it in the context of an already extraordinary period of international recognition for Jimin's visual presence on this tour. The Guardian's 5-star London review noted the hair specifically. Billboard covered the hair as a distinct story alongside their coverage of the concerts. Days chose Jimin's body-to-body performance, where the hair flowing during the choreography becomes a visual element of the performance itself, as the singular piece of concert footage they shared from their London experience. Star News Korea titled their coverage of the international media response to emergency, capturing the sense that there is something almost emergency level about the degree to which Jimin's hair has demanded attention from major outlets simultaneously. And through all of that coverage, GQ's official inclusion of Jimin in their best long hair feature is the most formally prestigious and most directly fashion industry-specific recognition he has received. Because GQ is not covering a concert. They are not writing a travel piece about the Arirang World Tour. They are making a definitive statement about what excellent male hair looks like in 2026, drawing on expert opinion from the highest levels of the professional grooming industry. And in making that statement, they have included Jimin, the only K-pop idol, the only Asian man on the list. There because his hair is that good, full stop. It is worth noting that Jimin's inclusion in this GQ feature has its own specific symbolism in the context of the decision he made to grow his hair in the first place. He grew it against resistance. He maintained it through months of a world tour in which every city presented physical challenges, extreme heat in Europe, the demands of intense choreography multiple nights per week, the travel schedule that would stress any person's physical condition including their hair. And through all of that, the hair has remained one of the most consistently documented and most consistently praised elements of his public presence on this tour. The fact that it has now been formally recognized by GQ's expert sources as one of the best examples of male long hair in the world is a vindication of every choice he made against the advice of the people around him, with only his mother's support, that led to it existing at all. Let's also consider what the GQ recognition means for the fans who have been following the hair's evolution throughout the Arirang World Tour. ARMY's relationship with Jimin's hair on this tour has been deeply invested. The nicknames Lion Jimin at Gwanghwamun, Northern Duke at Goyang, Stark and Targaryen Jimin at the later Goyang dates, Rapunzelman at Tokyo Dome, Samurai Jimin in Tampa, Greek God Jimin in Brussels, represent a running commentary from a community of millions of people who have been watching every evolution of this hair across months of performances in cities around the world. The braids in Las Vegas that reached Telemundo. The accessories in Brussels that generated 16 saves and 422 shares on a single post. The bandana in Munich that immediately went viral. The Charles Jeffrey Loverboy beanie in London that sold out before ARMY could even post about it. All of that fan documentation, all of that community enthusiasm, all of that creative naming and visual tracking, it was the community recognizing something that GQ has now formally confirmed. The hair is extraordinary. It deserved all the attention it was getting. And the people who noticed first and named it most creatively were not style professionals or fashion critics, they were ARMY, paying attention with the specific intensity of people who genuinely care about every dimension of what Jimin is doing. The GQ recognition gives that community something to point to when they want to explain to people outside the fandom why the hair conversation is serious rather than trivial. It is not just fans being enthusiastic. It is GQ, citing expert hairstylists, confirming that among all the men in the world with long hair, the K-pop idol from Busan who grew his hair against his agency's wishes and wore it to every city of the biggest K-pop world tour in history is one of the best examples of what this look can be. That is not fan enthusiasm. That is formal, professional, expert-backed recognition from one of the oldest and most respected fashion publications in the world. What does all of this mean for the broader story of Jimin's 2026 era? It means that the hair, which began as a personal creative choice that faced institutional resistance, which evolved through city after city of the Arirang World Tour into an ever-changing visual narrative with its own language and its own community of observers, which generated media coverage from The Guardian and Billboard and Dazed in multiple Korean publications and now GQ, has become a genuine cultural artifact of 2026. It is not going away. It is not a passing trend that will be forgotten when the tour ends. It is part of the documented record of what the year looked like, what excellent male hair looked like, and who the people were who set the standards for it. ParkJimin, BTS, the Arirang World Tour, and hair that GQ's experts say is among the best in the world. That is the 2026 story, officially documented. The Arirang World Tour continues with Paris, 2 nights at the Stade de France on July 17th and 18th, followed by the FIFA World Cup final halftime show on July 19th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, where BTS will perform alongside Madonna and Shakira in front of an audience that could exceed 1 billion viewers worldwide. And wherever Jimin's hair is when he takes that stage, whether it is flowing loose or braided or accessorized in some new way that has not yet been seen, it will be carrying the full weight of everything this era has built. The resistance overcome. The cities conquered. The nicknames earned. The fashion critics won over. And the GQ feature that made it official, in 2026, among all the men in the world with long hair, ParkJimin is one of the best. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video meaningful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content covering Jimin, the Arirang World Tour, and all the moments where K-pop and global culture intersect in genuinely historic ways. Drop a comment below and tell me which has been your favorite Jimin hair moment from this entire Arirang era. I want to read every single answer. And I will see you in the next video.